Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode is based on the Scherzo No.1 in B minor, Op.20 by Frédéric Chopin. Before we get started with the tutorial portion of today's video, I thought I would play a bit of this for each of you. In case you're not familiar with it, I'll play the first 68 bars, just the first two pages here in the Ekier edition, through that first ending. Okay. I have drawn a lot of inspiration from many different sources for this tutorial. Big thanks to my teacher, Susan Duhlmeyer. I still see her a few times a year just to check a lot of these tutorials before or just to check my playing before I make these tutorials. I take these tutorials very seriously, and I want to do these pieces justice. These are some of the most famous pieces. Anything I've covered on my channel is a very famous piece in the piano repertoire. You look on IMSLP, big free sheet music site, and you see thousands and thousands and thousands of composers. And how many could you name off the top of your head? I have a doctorate in music, and I might be able to name 100 composers off the top of my head. Not 100,000, which IMSLP probably has that many, at least 10,000. I don't know how, I haven't counted. This is not only a famous work, but these are some of the most famous works by Chopin. So big thanks to Susan Duhlmeyer for her inspiration. I took a lesson on this with her a few months ago. Very helpful. I also drew a lot of inspiration from various recordings. Each of them had different things to offer. Now, don't be offended if I'm not mentioning your favorite recording, but some of the leave a comment down in this comment section below of your favorite recordings of this. Some of the recordings that I drew inspiration for various ideas from were Richter, Mojsevich, Pogorelic, a young pianist, Hayato Sumino, who I'm a big fan of. He's big on YouTube, but a tremendous thoughtful player. Really like his works. I also listened to recordings of Seong-jin Cho, Yundi Lee, and then I also gained a lot of insight just through personal experimentation, and that is how I want to structure this tutorial. I'm actually pretty nervous for this tutorial, and I was confused about how I wanted to present it. Of all the scherzi, I thought this one was one of the easiest to learn and by far the easiest to memorize. This is the hardest scherzo in my mind, like bar none, no doubt, on how to interpret it. It repeats so many times, and we don't want to do the same thing each time. And you will find recordings that do very similar things every time. But I want to go through, today's tutorial may be a slight bit different from other tutorials that I've done. I want to stop as we go and give you a bunch of different possibilities of shaping, of articulation, of pedaling. We've got the pedal cam down there, so I'm not going to point out every pedal. You can just watch that. But there's a lot of different things you could do with pedaling. Just the overall interpretive aspect of this piece is extremely difficult because it is so repetitive. We don't want it to sound the same. There's slight variations in this A section. By the way, the form of this piece is pretty simple. It's A, B, A, coda. So this first section's the A section, obviously. and then B minor, and then we have the gorgeous middle section marked molto più lento in bar 305 in the parallel major, so B major. Probably the highlight of the piece. Actually, all the slow sections of the scherzi are the highlights of the piece for me, especially 4. I love that middle section so much. And then we see a return. We actually see a mixture, which is quite neat. In 383, we see this gorgeous middle section kind of dissipate into 384. Then 385, we see the return of the first chord. 2, 3. And then we see a little fragment of the middle section. Second chord of the piece. Still little fragments of the middle section, and then we're back. Okay? And then the coda is very obvious, starts in 569 right after this. Super difficult. Very spread out material. Why would this be called a scherzo? Scherzo usually means joke. This doesn't sound joking. But you think of elements of a joke. You think silence, delivering a great punchline. There's silence that precedes it. Jokes are unexpected. They take turns that you wouldn't have expected. And all of those descriptions fit this piece absolutely perfectly. So even though it's not comical, it certainly has the elements of a scherzo. Published in 1835. I believe this piece was, he began writing it in 1831 and it was completed in 1833, at least according to the reading I did. And they also, some of the reading I did, they were skeptical of why he would call this a scherzo and the serious elements of it. And they thought perhaps because of the November uprising against the Russian Empire, the effects of war may have had something to do with the darkness that this piece presents. So with all of that said, I want to start the tutorial. Let's start actually with these first 2 chords, and then I'm going to get into some hand movement that's helped me and some fingering suggestions. But one thing that Susan said that I just loved, I thought this was so clever, because you think of these big chords as just screams at the beginning, big. She said, still make it melodic. So she suggested top, which I love. That brings a different character rather than just slamming the chord. And then bottom. Brings more depth. Oh, one other thing. Why would this be called a scherzo? Look at the meter. It's in 3/4 time, but starting in bar 9. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Much of this feels just like triplets because he writes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then he goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have some rhythmic play there that is very scherzo-like. The reason I bring that up, which is so important, I was always wondering, like, how much do I count this? Obviously, it's 4 bars. But I was thinking, diddle-a-diddle-a-diddle-a-dum, diddle-a-diddle-a-diddle-a-diddle-a-dum. Sometimes thinking of your big beat is not wise. I actually took a lesson with Fleischer many years ago on a Beethoven sonata, the Opus 31 number 2, and he said, you have to subdivide. He's like, how are you thinking about this middle movement? And I was thinking, I was just thinking big beats. He's like, you cannot do that. You always have to subdivide down to the lowest or the shortest note value you can, because your adrenaline will not fool you, basically, is what he was saying. And same thing here. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of students will rush that. Where do I think? Do I think here, where I have this scherzo-like rhythmic play? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's very confusing. So what I always think of is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, And actually, I'm going to say this as well. I think this beginning, if we look at any large-scale Chopin works such as I shouldn't say any large scale. If we look at the ballades, for instance, the introductions of each of those ballades are very thoughtful. The scherzos are filled with space. Wait. So taking a little extra time here. I want an awareness. I'm not just doing like long fermatas, but it's a worse sin to rush through a long value than it is to take a little extra time. And here, with it being the opening two chords, I think you got quite a lot of freedom. Do not, please, rush through them. Okay, with that said, let's talk about some fingering to start with. So left hand, 1, 3, 2, 5, and then in bar 10, 1, 3, 4, 2, and same thing, 5, and then 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5. If your hand's not big enough for 1, 2 there, you can use 1, 3. Just use a little bit more rotation. Okay, before we get into this right hand fingering and some of the moves that I'm going to make, I want to remind you of something I've said on my channel many times. 3 types of movement in the hand. Hinge, wave, so this is kind of like a semicircle rotation, doorknob. Okay, so those are just labels that I gave. I'm sure there's a medical term, like the perfect anatomical term for those types of rotation. If you know them, put them in the comments below. But those are the 3 types: hinge, wave, doorknob. Okay, we want to employ all of those as we do this. I'll name the fingering, and then I'm going to go through and show you kind of those 3 types of motion that I'm using to make these passages easier. I experimented a lot with this fingering. I like a straighter on fingering. If you do 1, 2, 3, look at the position that puts my hand in. Even if you let go of the thumb, it's probably okay, but I like 4 so much better. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5. Same thing here. 2, 3, 5. I'm gonna give you an alternate fingering. I'm gonna be doing this a lot on places that I probably won't do it a lot, but I'm going to do it here and probably a few other places on some optional fingerings. You could do 1, 2, 3 with a little more rotation. 5, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, and the next one. 2, 1, 4, 5. This is bar 17. 2, 1, 4, 5, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5. Same thing. Okay? You could also do 2, 1, 3, 5, 2, 3, 1, 5, 2, 3, or you could do any combination of those. For instance, if you like 1, 2, 4 right there, 1, 2, 4, 5, but then you like to go 2, 3. If you use 4 on the B, you do not have to use it on the C sharp, but you can. Those are just a few thoughts to get you started. Now, when you go, let's go back to bar 13 here. I love passages like this. Reminds me a lot of Winter Wind, which I played since a young age, so it feels comfortable in my hands. Okay. I want you just to think of rotating back and forth. So turn the doorknob to the right, to the left, right, left. Okay? Let's talk about artistry next. One thing that Susan, I took this and it was kind of like a wild horse a little bit. This was several months ago, and she's like, you could do a little more artistry in here. So feeling this, and then feeling these little, almost 2-note slur type figures, 2 there. I think an awareness of those is very helpful, and actually I really like it. Rather than just rather than just playing it fast, there's a lot of people in the world that can do that. There's a lot of people who can't as well. But, you listen to Begorelich's recording, and he is so fast and clear. It's really exciting. I don't have his speed, and so I always try to make up for any lack of speed that I have with Artistry. Plus, even if I had the speed, I would still want it to be artistic. So I like to hear that forzando. So it's forzando piano, and then go to there, and then espressivo. Don't rush that. I had a tendency to do that before. Just kind of throw it off versus being really clear there. Another thing that we need to focus on, I promise I'm going to get past these first 16 bars here, but these are all setting us up for the rest of the tutorial. One thing that we have to do is we have to pace our dynamics. One of the ways that we can get through a piece that's really difficult, I'm thinking Liszt Sixth Rhapsody, which I'm going to do a tutorial on. That is a game of stamina. Even on quick little passages like we have in the Scherzo, you can increase your stamina, first of all, by practicing a lot, but second of all, by being very thoughtful about energy preservation and dynamic pacing. What I mean by that is, don't do, I already kind of feel tired. So, forzando, light, crescendo to there, resolve, and then crescendo to there. You'll be so surprised at how good that feels. And then here, I just came off of that, so I don't want to be pianissimo, so I'll actually diminuendo on those, then start less. Okay, and then, by the way, to get that one accurate, that's pretty out of tune. I just had this tune last week, and I've beat the heck out of this piano. So, let's see. So going up to there, just practice playing an octave, and then just stretching to the octave. I used to be kind of flippant, and I'd go, and I'd make really stupid mistakes. And I'm not saying I hit it perfectly every time, but it sure does help. This next one's a little harder when you go, sorry, that was terrible. Right there. But again, try to stay close to the keys, use a little bit of doorknob turn, a little bit of semicircle turn, and that brings us back to here. So I'm going to use a little bit of semicircle, doorknob turn back to this note, doorknob turn back to this note, and then a little bit of semicircle. By the way, a lot of students do semicircle and they keep their hand totally flat, which locks them up. You can actually do a little doorknob turn. We talk a lot about that in a tutorial I did a long time ago, just on YouTube, about playing quick arpeggios and having to use all different types of movement there. So I hope that helps you navigate these. Also, one thing that's helped me